We begin our briefings, and now we'll speak about the potential legal consequences of participation in volunteer battalions. Lawyers demand to define such a legal status of such battalion because legal consequences are not clear. Dubious and participants of ATO and those volunteer battalions after ATO, they could be brought to court, and we'll speak to Ksenia Prokonova. He's a lawyer at Yuskutum, and Mykhailo Tarahkalo, Director of Strategic Affairs, Ukrainian Helsinki Human Rights Union, and Oleg Veremeyenko, who's a lawyer, and he's working with Ukrainian Helsinki Human Rights Union. I invited Ksenia Prokonova, a lawyer at Yuskutum company. Please. Morning. Ksenia Prokonova, and the company is Yuskutum. I would like I beg your pardon for being late because now what's happening on Maidan, it doesn't allow to drive normally. As to my presentation, first of all, I would like to inform on some messages, and because in Ukraine now there is a rise of patriotic forces and support, and everybody sympathizes to the events in the East, but the legal background should be without any passion, and it shows that at present participants of volunteer battalions who defend interests of our country in the East, they are not protected at all. They use the support of civic groups and volunteers, civic groups, NGOs help them with munition, etc. But they don't have a legal status. What's the problem here? When the wind of our authorities turns their side, consequences could be, legal bodies will deal with legal issues, and during Maidan, you could not start any case against Berkut, and now these issues are considered in courts, and courts that defended their supporters, they are after them, and from the government, you can expect something negative, the most negative. What can happen? There could be some problems because when someone is fighting in the East, they don't. If they are enlisted and officially they are already there, so they will know, but they will not have no documents to prove where they are. So there are some issues with some questions as to benefits, compensation, and social support, and if they get wounded because of participation in combat areas, and compensation in case they die, which is compensation which is paid to their families. There are some issues related to the use of force. And if military information, which is not created according to the law, it causes some consideration, especially of law enforcement bodies. Is it an organized criminal group which uses force, has weapons, which is armed? And there are some issues as to training of such participants of volunteer battalions. Not all the battalions have a course, a training course. So that is important. It's very important, and psychological point here also. Law enforcement bodies and our military men, they all, according to, they should be tested psychologically because they get weapons, and after they use it, and they should be observed during that period. And we cannot say the same about volunteer battalions. We don't know those people who are writing there. I speak about a psychological profile. This is briefly about points I would like to draw your attention to as a lawyer. If there will be questions, and I will be happy to answer them. Thank you. Mykhailo Tarahkalo, Ukrainian Helsinki group on human rights. Ksenia covered the problems quite well, and Ukraine as a state told and de facto recognized the activity of volunteer battalions. So it says it's fine that there are such battalions on its territory, and that's why it is responsible for the activity of these battalions as to the third parties against which they are fighting, and also in front of participants of these battalions, and that requires some logistic and other measures of the state as to how to set order in these battalions, volunteer battalions. If they are not legal, there should be a program how to legalize these battalions. And if the state is not interested in some battalions, they should say how to act for us not to create serious problems. To legalize these battalions or disband them, dismiss them, because we have a lot of concern. We are concerned that about responsibility. So there's a situation, for example, and there are problems with the coordination of the activity. If it is a volunteer battalion, there must be coordination of that battalion with other units, military and units of police units. If military men die because of no coordination, as also volunteers of these battalions and civilians, our state is responsible for that, because, as I told you before, on its territory, it recognizes legitimacy of these volunteer battalions, and doesn't do anything to indicate they are not legitimate, or we should make them legitimate somehow. Thank you. Good morning, Oleg Veremeyenko. As a lawyer, our citizens speak to me, and they are volunteers in battalions, and they told me about legal problems they are facing. Briefly about volunteers. There's an expression of Agit that Spartanians ask about enemies, not how many of them, but where they are. Volunteers they are Spartanians because they were the first to defend our border. Legally, there is a legal ground for that, because there is a law from 1991 about the defense of borders, and it says that there could be volunteer units in cooperation with, they must cooperate with Ukrainian border guards, and together they must could defend the border. And many in spring, in March, I think, many activists from Maidan, I know they went to Chernihiv to defend the border. They were now they were in the east. Now it's more organized, but there are some problems. two principles how to recruit volunteers into these volunteer battalions. The main question is that on the stage of creation or formation of battalions, we should filter people and psychopaths. Not adequate people should be filtered, because after they get weapons, it will be very difficult to stop them. They should be people. They should be people with cold head, and they should keep under control their emotions. Because otherwise, we'll have a backfire effect. Secondly, just the functioning of such battalions. Volunteers who came to defend Ukrainians from external aggression, they should be armed. They should be fed. They should be clothed. They should move. And they should have bulletproof vests and helmets. And I read reports of Rus and other volunteers, and they told that we have all like millions of armored vehicles, and but the state is afraid to give that equipment to these battalions. You remember there was a day when 20 or 30 volunteers from such battalions were killed. So they are now our citizens. They are our brothers and fathers, our friends. So that's why the state must do something. Because if we lose this time, the reaction could be not reversible. Now it's possible to take it under control. First, what should be done for that? As I told, there must be legal frames of providing armored vehicles to volunteer battalions. Second, as to weapons, here's a question. If there is no state program, we should pass the law on weapons. Call them the way you want, volunteers, guerrillas, but the state must protect them. If they came to defend the country and our people, for our people not to be humiliated, raped, killed, etc., there should be a tool to defend them, to protect them, and only such measures can stop an aggressor. If an aggression comes, and if they understand that everybody has a gun home, I don't speak about just about automatic guns, semi-automatic guns, and these battalions must be armed with semi-automatic guns, automatic guns, and other weapons to deter the enemy. But guns should be under control, because now there is a certain chaos. And from my I had recently one of the commanders of a volunteer battalion. He took to repair their weapons. Several they got from a terrorist some semi-automatic guns, and they were trying to install aiming tools, and he was carrying all of that to give it for repair. And he got into an accident, and road police came and saw lots of weapons. And they told, you are a terrorist. They provided first aid, and right away from the hospital they took it to pre-trial prison. So I spoke to a local prosecutor. It's not far from Kremenchuk, and young guy, and he had a prosecutor's uniform. And I told him, when I saw him in the uniform, I thought such a young guy, a healthy guy. The first question I had was, why was he not on the front? Yes, he was driving illegally that weapons, and Article 263 of criminal code, illegal movement of transportation of weapons. And I told him, look, we are here in the office, but 50 kilometers from here, there is a guard system of Russia, and one day, and they will shoot at your office. Do you understand that? That's why I told him that the state, the government should take necessary measures, and there should be some legislative format of for keeping weapons. And when somebody gets arrested, these volunteer battalions, it's a big problem because if they are tortured when they get into in captivity, and the majority of them are killed after being tortured because for aggressors they are an enemy number one. I will not describe what they do to them, but there is a problem. So we respect our volunteers, and because if they were not here, the aggressor would be in Kiev, because with their life, that is their life, their health to defend our country, our families. That's why the state, the society, we owe to them everything. We should do everything for them to be protected legally, socially, economically, and if they should be treated free of charge and quickly with quality. If they die, their relatives, their children should be should receive state support, or should get free education, higher education, including higher education, and also they should receive a pension when they. And children should receive that. As participants of engagements, I understand this is a burden for the budget, but there's no other way. Ksenia would like to add here. I will take some of your time. As to weapons, I would like to add, we should not forget that now those who buy that weapons, who transport, they under risk, big risk. At the same time, with volunteer movements in Ukraine, there is still police would like to show off with their work, and they Article 263, and we have they continue, they ignore the law, and as police says, we have to report that we do something. We should show to the society that we are working and that we stop illegal activities. And second point, in addition to protection of those people who send weapons to volunteer battalions, the question is how to call back. It's probably a philosophical issue. Someone who used the weapons, who got used to, and they use that weapon. If they don't know clear format, subordination, when they're called back, and it's very difficult for them to understand when the war is over, if to use a common language, and why, when it's over, why should they come to peaceful life, return to peaceful life. We will have to face that issue also. Thank you very much. Is there any question? Will you officially whom will you speak officially with your statement as a Helsinki society, or whom are you appealing to? Whom are you talking? Well, who is your audience? The goal of this press conference is to raise this issue in our society, because this problem is there. It should be solved somehow, and that's what we are doing. We are trying to appeal to our government for this issue to be analyzed and solved in the near future. We as lawyers, it's easier for us to logical to work with precise problems, and that's what we do. We work with those people who are brought to court for dissemination or transportation of weapons, and also then we participate in some other situation. Also, we work with MPs and on how to legalize, and we should outline the frame or the format for these volunteer battalions, and they should have the same status as military man in ATO. I believe that these issues should be raised, discussed among experts. There is a draft law on weapons in the parliament. I know that Katarynchuk supported that issue a long time ago, but now we should move from words to actions. And one more advice to volunteers in such battalions: how to defend yourself, to protect yourself if you transport weapons, if they are stopped there by police, because there are a lot of people who support terrorists and separatists in the east of Ukraine. So this is an advice from lawyers. Just when you wake up, write a document to a police statement. I'm such and such. I would like to voluntarily give up that a gun. If they arrest you, they find it, and when they ask you where were you driving, you say that you were driving to police to give up that weapon, and it will not be a crime. You say that these people are not members, so there are no documents about that they are members of volunteer battalions, but the majority of they are subordinate to the Ministry of Defense or the Ministry of Interior. Are those ministries don't give them guarantees, documents to people who belong to these battalions? Thank you for your question. I would like to say the following. If I will not give the name of that battalion, this is one of the big battalions in the east, in the south, and in the south of Ukraine. I spoke to one of the leaders. 50% of volunteers in his battalion, they signed a contract with the Ministry of Interior, and they received officially weapons, and that belongs to them. And the second part, for example, they don't want to have a contract with the Ministry of Interior, and if you speak about battalions of Ministry of Defense, I didn't hear about such battalions. I could be wrong, but as to percentage, there are more battalions, volunteer battalions under the Ministry of Interior, and the 50% of the staff and battalions, they're not protected. Yeah, they have weapons. They took it from terrorists, and but a policeman can cop at any moment and say, "You have illegal weapons, and come up with us." We know about such cases. One more comment about this question. At present, if we speak about, if to put it simply, there is no structured system as to how, what you do to those who are not a part of a battalion, how the activity is regulated, and also how the work of such battalions is regulated. Maybe there are some documents, but systemic legislation is absent as to these battalions. It's difficult to interpret law if you are in Luhansk region, you know. What about people who are enlisted to be to fight in ATO? What if through enlistment office, military enlistment offices, but what if they refuse? And there's an article, criminal article, that they could be incriminated to the sentence. They can be sentenced for 5 years in a prison. If there's an official enlistment according to the law of Ukraine, they should do their duty. They should come and serve to the country. For those people who don't want to do that, we have such an article in the criminal law, and there is responsibility for that, for a refusal. If they believe that their rights are violated and the state gets out of acts not legally, they can appeal what the military enlistment office does. They can appeal to the court, and it's like paying taxes. We have the president announced a mobilization, and the issue you raise, it is regulated because there is a procedure and there is a legal on how to react when you want or when you don't want. And if you don't want, there are some other tools, legal tools. We speak here not about legal regulation, but when where it is a problem. We can discuss for hours whether we should go to this war or not. Is it correct or not correct? Is it correct to one region and the rest? But this is not the subject of our discussion. Maybe we'll come to this later. Thank you very much. How can you explain why cabinet of ministers did not decide on documents for participants of ATO? I don't love to do this, but I'll ask you why our state has not run reforms. Documents that they are there in ATO. Why this process is not clear? The process means that there should be some order. It's not clear why. As soon as you do the first attempt, the system starts working, and the system in the end will have this. The state will have obligations, a burden of obligation to certain people. And that means money. Everything is easy. The more you postpone this, there's people to whom you will have to pay So it's not just a document. It means that you're paid from the budget and the government. Yeah. For some people, it's war, and for some people, it's the situation they love, and there are people who don't want to defend our country, and there are a lot of there are a lot of facts that such battalions use this war for their own benefit. Because there is, to differentiate a battalion who consists of people who care about Ukraine and about criminal groups, it's very difficult. And this issue should not be resolved by police because there is no procedure how to select such participants, and no legalization and no subordination. De facto, it's the same criminal groups and these groups. And always there could be, and there will be always such people who would like to get a piece of pie under any condition. The law on voluntary police, maybe that law can be used for these battalions. I will not. I don't. That law was about the defense of voluntary units, or creation of voluntary units to defend our borders. It was passed in 1991. So it can be used. It can be used to such battalions. For the previous question, unfortunately, it happens that a spoon of pitch spoils a barrel of honey, and there was we received some letters from victims. I would like to warn those who do this, who loot cars, and even pro-Ukrainian activists, and they looted a jeep, and a person disappeared. That person is missing, but.
And this does not, of course, add to the karma of the voluntary battalion. I think that commanders of the battalions should understand this and investigate these facts and stop this in the beginning. There's another legal moment, that a lot of our soldiers, volunteers, and just civilians got captured and become prisoners. In this direction, the state does not work actively enough, and we have the situation that, for instance, our voluntary battalions collect a pool of prisoner terrorists and do not hand them over to armed forces. As a person, I can understand them. They collect them not to torture or kill them, but to exchange for their brothers in arms. But this procedure is not regulated legally, and we have to decide something with this. As far as the use of the law is concerned, the positive moment in different legislative acts can be used, of course, but the question is that this should be either a single legal act or a clear-cut system that we should work upon. At the moment, this is all scattered. There is a piece of a norm, there is a piece of another norm there, and the rest should be interpreted. But this is very convenient to interpret this in the lawyer's office, not in situ. And now I have a question on the basis of the questions that we have talked upon about. Those are very painful issues. And my question is, will you initiate the address to parliamentary committees so that the Helsinki Union raises the issue with those who are making decisions? Yes, at the moment we are already talking about the issue. And I would like to say that if there are people who have suffered, and there are also people who suffered in voluntary battalions or from voluntary battalions. We are ready to provide them with help. You can address us. We are ready to provide consultation. How can we contact you? Our address is on the site of the Ukrainian Helsinki Union. There are contact phones and electronic email. Well, whatever way is convenient to you, just contact us. We will help you. We had with us representatives of the Ukrainian Helsinki Union who were talking about potential legal results for members of voluntary battalions. Our next briefing is at 12:30.